Barack Obama stepped out of the black car and adjusted his suit. The sunlight reflected on the palace walls, making them shine like gold. He took a deep breath and smiled at the crowd waiting behind the barriers. People were holding small flags and cameras. Some were cheering quietly and some were just staring in awe. He waved gently and began to walk toward the large entrance. The palace was known for its strict rules and perfect order. The gardens were clean, the fountains sparkled, and the paths were lined with flowers of every color. As he walked, he noticed a royal guard standing tall near the main door. The guard's uniform was crisp and his shoes were polished to a shine. His posture was perfect, and he did not move as Obama approached. The guard's face was serious, but there was a calm strength in his eyes. Obama slowed down and nodded respectfully. He had met guards in many countries, but this one seemed different. There was a sense of discipline and honor that felt almost ancient. Then the guard spoke in a clear voice, and his words surprised Obama. "I have never met a leader who carries hope so easily," the guard said. Obama stopped in his tracks. He blinked once, not sure he had heard correctly. He had heard speeches, praises, and discussions about leadership, but he had never heard something so personal and simple. The words were not about politics or power. They were about a quality that people could feel but not always see. Obama's heart felt warm. He looked at the guard and noticed the calm seriousness in his face. There was no pride, no arrogance, only truth. The guard was not flattering him. He was speaking from observation, from honesty. Obama wanted to speak, but for a moment he could not find the words. Finally, he smiled gently and said, "Thank you. That means a lot to me." His voice was quiet, almost soft, but it carried a sincere emotion. The guard nodded slightly and returned to his position, standing straight and silent once more. Obama continued walking through the entrance of the palace. The halls were tall and decorated with paintings of kings and queens from centuries ago. Each painting seemed to tell a story. The chandeliers were large and glimmered with bright light. He felt a strange mix of awe and calm. The words of the guard kept echoing in his mind. As he moved deeper into the palace, he met other staff and officials. Everyone was polite and respectful, but no one's words touched him like the royal guards had. He realized that sometimes, honesty from someone who does not know you personally can mean more than praise from people who do. It made him think about his life, his work, and the moments when he had carried hope for others. He walked into a room filled with sunlight. A long table was in the center, and windows showed the gardens outside. He sat down and closed his eyes for a moment. Memories of speeches, travels, and meetings ran through his mind. He remembered the struggles he faced, the people he had tried to help, and the moments when hope had seemed impossible. Now, hearing the guard's words, he felt a quiet strength rise inside him. It was a reminder that what he did mattered, not just in politics but in small personal ways. People could feel hope and sincerity. They could recognize courage and kindness even in silence. Obama opened his eyes and looked around the room. Everything seemed brighter, more alive. He realized that the moment with the royal guard had changed him. It was a simple moment, but it had touched something deep inside. He understood that leadership was not just about decisions and speeches. It was about carrying hope, showing strength, and touching hearts in ways that words alone could not describe. As he stood to leave the room, he felt lighter, more determined. He wanted to meet the guard again, to thank him properly, but for now he held the words in his heart. The palace was magnificent, but the human connection he had just experienced was even more powerful. He walked toward the next hall with a steady step, feeling a sense of calm pride and quiet joy that he had not expected when he arrived. After walking through the grand hall, Barack Obama entered a smaller room where the walls were lined with books. The air smelled faintly of old paper and polished wood. Sunlight poured through tall windows, lighting up the room in a golden glow. He took a slow step forward and looked around. The room felt quiet, peaceful, and full of stories waiting to be discovered. A young assistant holding a notebook approached him. "Welcome, sir," she said politely. "This is the room where many leaders and visitors have studied the history of our kingdom. Please feel free to look around." Obama nodded and smiled. He began walking along the shelves, noticing the neat rows of books. Each book had a different size, color, and pattern. He pulled one gently from the shelf and opened it. It told the story of a king who had faced many challenges but remained kind and fair to his people. He turned the pages slowly, feeling a strange connection with the stories of courage and hope. As he read, he thought about the royal guard he had met earlier. The words from that man stayed in his mind. He realized that true respect often comes from the simplest acts. A single honest statement could touch someone deeply. The guard had reminded him of the importance of sincerity, and now Obama felt a renewed sense of purpose. He placed the book back carefully and moved toward another section of the room. There he found paintings of leaders from around the world. Each painting seemed alive in its own way. He paused at one of a leader known for helping children in difficult times. The leader's eyes seemed full of care and determination. Obama felt inspired and thought about his own journey. Suddenly he heard a soft voice behind him.
"Sir, would you like to see the garden from here?"
The assistant gestured toward a small door at the side of the room. Obama nodded and followed her. As the door opened, he stepped onto a balcony overlooking the palace garden. The view took his breath away. Flowers of every color swayed gently in the breeze. A fountain sparkled in the sunlight and birds flew freely above the trees. He could see the royal guards walking carefully along the paths, standing tall and serious yet blending perfectly with the beauty around them. He leaned slightly on the railing and felt the wind on his face. The words of the royal guard returned again. "I have never met a leader who carries hope so easily." Obama smiled quietly. It was not the first time someone had spoken kind words to him, but it was the first time he felt the weight and power of them in such a strong way. He realized that leadership was not just about actions, speeches, or decisions. It was about the feelings one carried and shared without words. The assistant waited politely, giving him time. Obama finally turned and spoke. "This garden is beautiful. It reminds me that even small moments of peace can bring strength." The assistant smiled. "Yes, sir. Many visitors find that the palace and gardens bring clarity and calm. It is a place where one can think deeply and reflect on life." Obama nodded. He began walking along the balcony, taking in every detail. The flowers, the fountains, the distant mountains beyond the palace walls, all of it seemed connected to a quiet sense of hope. He felt a sense of gratitude for being there. Even leaders who travel the world and meet thousands of people can sometimes find that a single moment, a single sentence can touch the heart more deeply than any award or recognition. As he continued along the balcony, he noticed a small group of children playing quietly near the fountain. Their laughter was soft but joyful, and it reminded him of why he had worked hard throughout his life. He thought about how important it was to carry hope, not just for himself but for everyone around him. The royal guard's words had opened his mind to seeing life in a clearer, simpler way. For the first time that day, Obama felt completely present. He was no longer thinking about meetings, speeches, or the expectations of the world. He was thinking about small, meaningful moments, the power of honesty, and the importance of hope. He realized that the palace, the garden, and even the guards were part of a larger story, a story about respect, kindness, and courage that could touch anyone at any time. Barack Obama left the balcony and entered a long corridor lined with mirrors. The sunlight reflected in them, making the space feel bright and endless. As he walked, he noticed the quiet footsteps of the royal guard from earlier. The guard did not speak but stayed at a respectful distance, observing silently. Obama felt a strange sense of comfort in that presence. It was as if the guard's seriousness carried a gentle protection. The corridor led to a room filled with artifacts from the kingdom's history. Ancient shields, swords, and crowns rested behind glass cases. Each piece seemed to tell a story of bravery, sacrifice, and leadership. Obama stopped in front of a small, simple crown. It was not as grand as some of the others, but it had a quiet elegance. He thought about the people who had worn it and the responsibility they carried. He remembered the royal guard's words again. "I have never met a leader who carries hope so easily." Obama realized that hope was like the small crown before him. It did not shine loudly, but it carried weight. It influenced people quietly in ways that could change lives. Leadership was not only about power, it was about the ability to inspire, to give courage, and to make others feel safe. A voice interrupted his thoughts. "Sir, there is a special room that very few visitors see," said a young palace guide. Her eyes were bright and her tone carried excitement. "It is where the royal family keeps letters from leaders across the world. Many messages are personal and full of advice, hope, and dreams." Obama's curiosity grew. He followed her down another hallway. The walls here were painted in soft colors and the carpet muffled their footsteps. When they reached the room, he noticed shelves filled with thick envelopes, scrolls, and bound letters. The air smelled faintly of old paper and ink. The guide handed him a letter carefully. "This one is from a leader who admired courage in difficult times," she said. Obama opened it slowly and read. The words were simple but filled with encouragement. He felt a warmth in his chest. Leaders often spoke in grand speeches, but sometimes a short message from someone who truly understood could leave a lasting impression. He read several more letters. Each one carried kindness, advice, or hope. Some spoke of challenges and failures, while others celebrated small victories. Obama felt connected to these voices even though he had never met most of them. The letters reminded him that leadership was a shared journey. It was not about being perfect. It was about inspiring others to do their best, even in small ways. After reading, he stood and looked around the room. The letters, the artifacts, the quiet walls, all of it spoke of history and humanity. He realized that courage and hope were timeless. They passed from one person to another, quietly influencing lives. Suddenly, he felt a presence behind him. It was the Royal Guard, standing silently near the doorway. Obama turned slightly and smiled. The guard's eyes were steady and calm. No words were needed. The guard's presence reminded him of the moment when he first arrived. That single sentence had touched him deeply. It was simple, honest, and unforgettable. Obama took a deep breath. He felt gratitude not only for the palace and its beauty, but also for the people who carried sincerity and respect. Leadership, he thought, was about connecting with others in ways that were real, honest, and meaningful. Even a quiet statement from a royal guard could change the way one saw the world. He walked slowly toward the exit of the room, holding the letters gently in his hands. Outside, the sun was beginning to set. The light turned soft and golden, reflecting off the palace walls. Birds flew across the sky and the gardens glowed with color. Obama paused for a moment, taking it all in. He realized that moments like these, simple and peaceful, were as powerful as any speech or meeting he had attended in his life. He smiled quietly to himself. The palace, the garden, the letters, and the royal guard had given him something he would carry forever. Hope, courage, and kindness were not just words. They were actions, feelings, and connections. And now, he felt ready to share them with everyone he met. In small ways that mattered more than he had ever imagined, Barack Obama stepped out of the palace rooms and entered a large hall with high ceilings. The hall was decorated with tapestries that told stories of past leaders and great moments in history. Every corner of the room seemed alive with colors and shapes, each carrying a message from the past. He paused for a moment, letting his eyes move slowly over the art. Each scene seemed to whisper courage, patience, and wisdom. A palace official approached him with a warm smile. "Sir, you are invited to meet the council of the palace. They will share the history of our traditions and discuss how we maintain hope and strength through challenges," she said. Obama nodded politely. He had met many councils before, but he felt curious and open. He followed her down a corridor lined with polished wooden floors that reflected the sunlight streaming from the windows. The light made the hall glow, and Obama felt a sense of calm excitement. The council room was large, with a round table in the center. Several people were seated, their faces welcoming yet serious. They greeted him politely and gestured for him to take a seat. Obama sat down and looked at each person. He noticed a mixture of ages, some older with years of experience, others younger with energy and fresh ideas. He felt a quiet admiration for their dedication. The leader of the council spoke first. "Mr. Obama, we have studied your work and leadership. We know the challenges you have faced and how you have inspired many. But more than that, we wish to understand how you carry hope through difficult times. Our kingdom values hope as much as strength." Obama felt his heart tighten. He thought of the Royal Guard's words, and a small smile appeared. "Hope," he said softly, "is something I have learned to carry because it is necessary. Without hope, people give up. Without hope, progress stops. I have seen how hope can change lives even in small ways, and I try to share it wherever I can." The council members listened carefully, nodding in agreement. One of the younger members spoke next. "Sir, we often feel that hope is fragile. How do you keep it alive when times are very hard?" Obama leaned back slightly, thinking. "Hope is not fragile," he said. "It is quiet but strong. It grows when people care, when actions match words, and when we remember that every small act matters. I have seen hope survive challenges that seemed impossible. It comes from people, their courage and their willingness to continue even when it is difficult. A soft silence filled the room. Obama could feel that his words touched them. He realized again how important it was to speak honestly and with purpose. Leaders could inspire not only through power or speeches, but through sincere words that reached the heart. After some time, the council showed him ancient documents and records. They told stories of leaders who had faced fear, uncertainty, and difficult decisions. Some of them failed, some succeeded, but all of them carried hope in some way. Obama could see the similarities with his own experiences. Leadership was never easy, but it always demanded courage, honesty, and faith in others. As the meeting ended, Obama stood and thanked the council. "You have shared much with me today. I am honored to learn about your traditions and the importance of hope in your kingdom. It reminds me that leadership is not only about decisions, but also about the feelings and courage we inspire in others." The council members smiled warmly. "Sir, your words are as important as your actions. We are grateful to hear them," the leader said. Obama walked toward the palace exit after leaving the council room. The sun had started to lower in the sky, and the light turned soft and warm. The gardens glowed with shades of gold and orange. He noticed the royal guard again, standing silently by the gates. Obama paused and nodded in respect. The guard returned the gesture with the same calm strength that had touched him before. For the first time that day, Obama felt a full sense of peace. The palace, the council, the gardens, and the guard had all shared lessons without demanding anything. He understood that hope was carried not only by leaders, but by every person who acted with honesty and courage. He walked slowly toward his car, feeling the warmth of the sun and the quiet strength within him. The royal guard's words echoed in his mind again. They were simple but unforgettable, reminding him that small acts, honest words, and quiet courage could make the biggest difference in the world. As the sun began to set, Barack Obama found himself walking through a quiet courtyard. The palace walls glowed softly in the golden light, and the fountains reflected the colors of the sky. The air smelled of flowers, fresh stone, and faint hints of history. Every step he took echoed slightly on the smooth paths. It was peaceful, but he felt a sense of anticipation as if something important was about to happen. A palace guide appeared and gestured toward a small, private garden. "Sir, this is a special place. Only a few visitors have the chance to see it. It is said to bring clarity and reflection to anyone who enters." Obama nodded and followed her. The garden was smaller than the main grounds but felt more personal. Trees formed gentle arches over the paths, and flowers of many colors filled the corners. A soft breeze moved through the leaves, creating a quiet rustling sound. He noticed benches along the paths and decided to sit on one, taking in the calm. As he sat quietly, he remembered the royal guard and the words that had struck him earlier. "I have never met a leader who carries hope so easily." The memory made him smile. It was strange how a single statement could leave such a lasting impression. The guard had not known him personally, yet he had seen something real, something that mattered. Obama realized that hope and sincerity could be felt even without explanation. Suddenly, he noticed someone approaching from the other side of the garden. It was the royal guard. He walked with his usual calm and steady pace, but there was something different in his eyes. Obama stood to greet him. "Good evening," Obama said warmly. The guard nodded and replied, "Good evening, sir. I hope you have found the palace and gardens to your liking." Obama smiled. "More than I expected. It is beautiful, peaceful, and full of lessons. You were right about hope. It is powerful and necessary." The guard remained silent for a moment, then spoke softly. "Sir, sometimes hope is quiet and people do not notice it. But when it is recognized, it can change everything. That is why it matters so much." Obama felt a deep sense of understanding. He realized that the guard had not only observed him, but had shared wisdom in his own way. Leadership was not only about decisions, speeches, or recognition. It was about moments like this, moments when honesty and sincerity touched hearts. The guard turned slightly toward the trees and continued, "Sir, many leaders face challenges they cannot see, and many people doubt their efforts. But the small acts of courage and kindness are always remembered, even when no one speaks of them." Obama nodded slowly. He thought of his own journey, the obstacles, the doubts, and the long days of work. There had been moments of fear, disappointment, and uncertainty. Yet, there had always been hope. Hope that people could change. Hope that kindness could make a difference. Hope that even small efforts mattered. The guard's words seemed to give those thoughts form. They were simple, honest, and true. Obama felt a quiet strength rising in him, a reminder that leadership was more than recognition. It was about touching lives, inspiring courage, and sharing hope without expecting praise. They walked together slowly through the garden paths. The light faded gradually, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple. Obama noticed the fountain sparkling in the last rays of sunlight. Birds flew back to their nests, and the gentle rustling of leaves created a calm melody. Finally, they stopped near a small fountain in the center of the garden. The water reflected the colors of the sky, and the air felt fresh and serene. Obama looked at the guard and said, "You have taught me more than I expected. Your words reminded me of what really matters." The guard nodded once, silently acknowledging the respect between them. Then he turned and walked back toward his post, leaving Obama with a sense of peace he had not felt in a long time. Obama remained by the fountain for a while, thinking about the lessons he had learned that day. The palace, the council, the gardens, and the guard had all shared wisdom in different ways. He realized that leadership was not about being remembered in history books. It was about carrying hope, inspiring courage, and making a positive difference in the lives of people. Quietly and sincerely, he finally stood and walked back toward the main palace, carrying the feeling of quiet strength with him. The sky was now deep blue and stars began to appear. Obama felt a sense of calm determination, knowing that the lessons of the day would guide him in everything he did. The evening had grown quiet, and the palace halls were bathed in soft light from crystal chandeliers. Barack Obama walked slowly through a long corridor, thinking about everything he had experienced that day. The royal guard's words, the council's wisdom, and the serene gardens had left a lasting impression. He felt calm but also curious about what more he could discover in this magnificent place. As he turned a corner, he saw a door slightly open. Soft music drifted from inside. He approached carefully and peered in. The room was small, but it glowed with warmth. Candles flickered along the walls, and a few people sat at tables playing gentle tunes on string instruments. The sound was peaceful, soothing, and seemed to fill the air with calm. A palace assistant noticed him and smiled. "Sir, this is the music room. It is a place where visitors and staff alike come to relax and reflect. Music here carries memories of leaders and people from the past." Obama nodded and stepped inside. The melodies were soft but full of emotion. He walked slowly among the tables, listening carefully. Each note seemed to tell a story, reminding him that even small gestures could carry powerful meaning. Leadership, he thought, was not only about speeches or meetings. It was about touching hearts, inspiring hope, and creating moments that stayed with people forever. He paused near a window and looked outside. The palace gardens were dark now, but small lights glowed among the trees. The fountains reflected them gently, creating a quiet shimmer. In that moment, he felt a deep sense of connection to the place, to the people who had built it, and to those who cared for it every day. Suddenly, the royal guard appeared again. He stood near the doorway silently watching. Obama turned and smiled. The guard's presence had been constant throughout the day, calm and steady, yet unobtrusive. It reminded him that respect, courage, and sincerity were often quiet but powerful forces. The guard spoke softly. "Sir, there is one more place I think you should see. It is not shown to many visitors, but it holds a special meaning for those who understand hope and responsibility." Obama nodded with interest. He followed the guard down another hallway. This path was narrow and dimly lit, but it felt inviting. They arrived at a small room with simple walls, a wooden floor, and a single chair in the center. On a table beside it were letters, notes, and journals. The room seemed to carry history, wisdom, and quiet strength. The guard gestured toward the table. "These are personal records of past leaders." They wrote down their thoughts, fears, and hopes. It is a reminder that even leaders face challenges, and hope is what guides them through difficult times. Obama approached the table carefully. He picked up a small journal and opened it. The handwriting was neat but simple. The words spoke of fear, doubt, and responsibility, but also courage, kindness, and determination. He felt a deep respect for the people who had written these notes, realizing that their honesty and sincerity had guided them through hard times. The guard watched quietly. Obama looked up and spoke. "I see now that leadership is not about being perfect. It is about carrying hope, facing challenges with honesty, and inspiring courage in others." The guard nodded, his expression calm but approving. He said nothing more, but the look in his eyes spoke volumes. It was a look of respect, understanding, and acknowledgement of what Obama had learned. Obama spent a few more moments in the room, reading the journals and reflecting on the lessons of the day. He realized that courage, sincerity, and hope were not only qualities of leaders but of every person who tried to make a difference. Small actions, honest words, and quiet dedication could leave a lasting impact. Finally, he closed the journal and placed it carefully back on the table. He stood up, feeling stronger, wiser, and more connected to the world. The palace had shared with him more than beauty or tradition. It had shared lessons of life, hope, and courage that he would carry forever. As he left the room, he looked at the royal guard one last time. The guard nodded slightly and returned to his post, silent but steady. Obama felt a deep sense of gratitude for the guidance he had received, knowing that the lessons of the day would remain with him for the rest of his life. He walked slowly back toward the main hall, feeling a quiet determination to carry hope, courage, and sincerity in every step of his journey from that day forward. The palace was quiet now, and the moon shone brightly over the gardens. Barack Obama walked slowly along the paths, feeling the cool night air on his face. The fountains reflected the moonlight, and shadows danced gently across the flowers and trees. He felt calm, yet there was a sense of anticipation in the air, as if something meaningful was about to happen. He reached the main courtyard and saw the royal guard standing tall by the gates. The guard's presence had been steady all day, calm and silent, yet powerful in its simplicity. Obama approached him with a warm smile. "Good evening," Obama said softly. The guard nodded respectfully. "Sir, I hope your day has been meaningful," he replied. Obama paused for a moment. He thought about everything he had experienced that day. The council, the gardens, the music, the journals, and the quiet lessons in every corner of the palace. He realized that these moments, small and simple, had left a deeper impact than any speech or meeting he had attended in the past. "I have learned much today," Obama said, "more than I expected. You have reminded me of something important, that hope, courage, and sincerity are what truly guide people." The guard looked at him calmly. "Sir, many leaders forget this. They focus on recognition, power, and achievements, but the quiet acts, the small moments of honesty and kindness, often matter the most. That is what I saw in you." Obama felt a wave of emotion. The words touched him deeply, and he remembered the first moment they had met. The simplicity and honesty of the statement had stayed with him all day. Now, under the moonlight, he understood the full meaning of it. Leadership was not only about decisions or success. It was about carrying hope in ways that could be felt, not just seen. The guard continued, "Sir, I have never met a leader who carries hope so easily. You inspire people without even trying. That is rare, and it is something to value." Obama's eyes filled with a quiet pride and humility. He felt a mixture of gratitude and awe. It was not just the compliment that mattered, but the understanding behind it. The guard had seen his intentions, his efforts, and the sincerity of his actions. For a moment he felt vulnerable yet strengthened. He looked at the palace around him. The tall walls, the gardens, the fountains, and the quiet shadows of history seemed alive. Everything in this place had taught him a lesson, but the guard's words were the most powerful. They were simple, honest, and unforgettable. "I will carry your words with me," Obama said quietly. "They remind me that leadership is about more than recognition. It is about making a difference, inspiring courage, and sharing hope." The guard nodded once, acknowledging the respect and understanding between them. He stepped back slightly, returning to his post, leaving Obama in the courtyard alone with his thoughts. Obama walked slowly to a bench near the fountain. He sat down and looked up at the stars. The sky was clear, and the light of the moon reflected on the water. He thought about the people he had met, the experiences he had shared, and the lessons he had learned. Every moment had built on the last, creating a day filled with meaning, insight, and quiet inspiration. For the first time in a long while, he felt completely at peace. He realized that leadership was not about being perfect, winning every challenge, or achieving fame. It was about sincerity, hope, and courage. It was about inspiring others, touching hearts, and leaving a lasting, positive impact, quietly and honestly. He rose from the bench and took a deep breath. The night was still and calm. He walked toward the palace gates, feeling a sense of renewal. The royal guard's words echoed in his mind once more, reminding him of what truly mattered. Hope was quiet yet strong. Courage could be felt even without words. Sincerity left an impression that lasted far longer than recognition. As he left the palace grounds, he looked back one last time. The moonlight shone on the walls. The gardens glimmered softly, and the royal guard stood tall in the distance. Barack Obama smiled quietly. He knew that this day, these moments, and the words he had heard would stay with him forever, guiding him in every step of his journey from that moment forward. The next morning, Barack Obama woke early and looked out of the palace window. The gardens were calm, bathed in soft sunlight. Birds sang quietly and the fountains sparkled. The beauty of the palace felt different now. It was not only grand and impressive, but it was also full of lessons he had learned the day before. Every corner seemed alive with meaning, courage, and hope. He decided to take one last walk through the palace grounds before leaving. As he moved along the paths, he remembered all the moments that had touched him. The council meeting, the music room, the journals, and especially the royal guard's words. Each memory carried a quiet power that had grown stronger overnight. The royal guard appeared again, standing silently by the main gate. His posture was perfect, calm and steady. Obama approached him with a warm smile. "Good morning," Obama said. The guard nodded respectfully. "Good morning, sir. I hope your stay has been meaningful." Obama smiled and took a deep breath. "It has been more than meaningful. You in this palace have shown me that hope, courage, and sincerity are the most important parts of leadership. I will never forget this day or the lessons I have learned." The guard's eyes showed a small smile, rare and quiet. "Sir, that is all anyone can ask for. To understand, to remember, and to carry these lessons forward. Many leaders do not see what is truly important. You have seen it." Obama felt a surge of gratitude and humility. He realized that leadership was not measured by recognition or awards, but by the lives touched, the hope shared, and the courage inspired in others. The guard had reminded him that even small moments, even quiet words, could have a lasting impact. He walked toward the fountain in the center of the garden. The water reflected the sunlight, and the soft breeze carried the scent of flowers. Obama watched children playing quietly in the distance. Their laughter was gentle but full of life, a reminder that hope and joy could be found in the simplest moments. He thought of the people he had served, the challenges he had faced, and the successes he had achieved. Everything seemed connected now. The lessons from the palace and the royal guard gave meaning to all his experiences. Hope was not just a word. It was a force, quiet but strong. Courage was not always loud. It could be seen in small actions. Sincerity left impressions that lasted far longer than recognition. Obama walked slowly back toward the main gate. He turned to the royal guard one last time. "Thank you," he said simply, "for your words, your presence, and your honesty. You have taught me something I will carry forever." The guard nodded and returned to his post. His face remained calm, but there was a sense of quiet respect in his eyes. Obama understood that some lessons were not spoken loudly but felt deeply. Some guidance came not from speeches or advice but from sincerity and understanding. As he stepped into his car, ready to leave the palace, he looked back at the grand walls, the gardens, and the fountains. The palace had given him beauty, history, and wisdom. It had given him moments that touched his heart, lessons that inspired him, and courage that strengthened him. Most importantly, it had reminded him of the power of hope carried honestly and sincerely. The car moved slowly through the palace gates. Obama sat quietly, reflecting on the day, the guard's words, and the lessons he had learned. He felt a sense of peace, clarity, and determination. Leadership, he realized, was not about perfection or recognition. It was about hope, courage, and sincerity, about inspiring others through honesty and quiet strength. As the palace disappeared in the distance, Obama smiled. He knew the lessons would guide him in the future. Every step he took from that day forward would be shaped by the quiet wisdom of the royal guard, the beauty of the palace, and the importance of carrying hope in every action. He felt ready to continue his journey with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that the most powerful guidance often comes in the simplest words and the quietest moments.